The Sega Mega Drive remains to this day as one of my all-time favorite consoles. And this month we celebrate its 30th anniversary. I can think of no better way to celebrate the occasion than to count down my all-time favorite games for the console. So, welcome back to part 2 of my top 30 Sega Mega Drive or Sega Genesis games. And if you've just joined this video, don't forget to check out part 1. So, let's get started. Number 15. Monster World 4. The Monster World series was pretty big on the Master System, but for whatever reason, the 16-bit games never seem to have garnered the same attention. And I'm pretty sure the reason for that is because the best Monster World game on the Mega Drive was never launched outside Japan back in the day. Thankfully, it did receive a digital port on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. The game is part side-scroller and part RPG. In fact, if you like the Shantae games, or if you wished Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link was more polished, then this is the game for you. There's only one city in the game, but you'll return to it often, and it feels lived in. You also have a fairly large, if linear, world to explore, with several dungeons to crawl, and the level design is spot on. You'll even acquire several upgrades throughout your adventure. Plus, look at how pretty this game is, and it sounds just as good. Seriously, just do yourself a favor and go play this. Number 14. Ranger X. Easily the best mech game on the Mega Drive, and possibly the best 16-bit mech game, period. Ranger X is another hidden gem for the system that everyone should play. In Ranger X, you control a mech, and your movement is largely jetpack based. You can't stay in the air indefinitely, but if you hit the ground for just 1 second, your jetpack will regenerate automatically, allowing you to fly again. The levels are all objective based, meaning you're given a short briefing on where to go and what to do, and then you should follow your radar to reach your target or targets. Oh, and if you play this with a 6-button controller, you can control your mech and the dune buggy at the same time, which is pretty freaking awesome. And you can fuse with the dune buggy to become faster and gain a higher firing rate. And have I mentioned all the great weapons, gorgeous graphics, and awesome music this game has? I mean, look at this! Look at how the game becomes darker as you dive into the woods. Now that's awesome! Number 13. Shadowrun. Shadowrun isn't for everyone, but if you enjoy sandbox Western RPGs, this is definitely for you. I really can't think of any other game like this on any 16-bit console. You begin the game by choosing your class, though take it from me and just pick the Gator Shaman, as it's the only one that can use magic, and you can easily branch out into combat and hacking later. The game is played through an overhead view where you initially start out alone, but eventually can hire other Shadowrunners to follow you. From there on, it's up to you whether you want to follow down the main storyline or just do side quests. And considering how the side quests will reset, you'll have plenty of content to keep yourself occupied with. And the best part is that it's up to you to decide what sort of character you want to make and how you want to approach each mission. or how you want to build your character and bank account. So you could try becoming a master hacker, get past some mega corporation's firewall, steal valuable information, and sell it on the black market. Or you could take combat missions and just start shooting all the security guards. You could try the stealth route and go through missions undetected. Or you could hack a company's alarm systems so you can sneak through your enemies, and so much more. And the game does a great job at separating virtual reality from the real world. While in the real world, the game is played from an overhead perspective and combat is done in real time. When hacking, you take this behind-the-shoulder camera and combat is turn-based. You can even pay off street gangs for protection or to stop harassing you, and characters will usually give you multiple dialogue choices. The game does have its flaws though. The graphics and sound are below average, and you'll often run into a few bugs, some of which can be pretty major, and it's easy to become stuck in virtual reality as combat can take forever if you're not properly equipped. Despite that, this is a truly unique game, and I often like to describe it as Fallout 3 if Fallout 3 had been a 16-bit cyberpunk game. So, if that sounds appealing, give it a go! Number 12. MUSHA. If you've heard about Compile, chances are you've played an Alisia game, even if it didn't carry that name in your region. Basically, Compile came up with a formula for a shmup and then spent the next 8 or so years working to improve it, with games like Alisia, The Guardian Legend, Power Strike 2, and of course, MUSHA. MUSHA is simply one of the best shmups ever made, with great power-ups, level design, enemy design, great music, and truly unique set pieces. Using a giant robot to attack a ground-based tank shaped like a Japanese castle? Yeah, sure, why not? It really is hard to explain why this game is so unique, especially when other YouTubers have already done so. Just seriously, if you're into shmups, you owe it to yourself to play this one. Number 11. Castlevania Bloodlines. Castlevania Bloodlines is the only game in the series released exclusively for a Sega console, but Konami really made it count with this one. You have 2 characters to choose from, which have very different control schemes, even if the level design does seem more tailored towards Eric Lockhart. All your favorite sub-weapons make a return, but they now have 2 firing modes instead of 1. Your regular weapon can also be upgraded up to 3 times, instead of the usual 2, which comes with its own special sub-weapon. Levels also have alternate paths you can take, and the game has 4, count them, 4 different endings. And if you have the US version like I do, it's completely uncensored, meaning pools of water are now turned into pools of blood, and you can decapitate harpies. So good! And then you have the music, which was worked on by one of the composers behind Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And boy, does it show! Instead of falling back on Hungarian or Baroque music like the previous entries, this one hinges a lot more on a mix of those styles with rock and techno, and it is glorious. The only reason why I don't rate this game higher on the list is because it's criminally short, with only 6 stages. That's almost half as many as Castlevania 4. But what this game lacks in quantity, it makes up for it in quality. Number 10. Landstalker. Landstalker is an isometric RPG similar to the previously mentioned Light Crusader. This was developed by the same studio behind the Shining series, and is even a sort of spin-off to that series. Here, you play as a treasure hunter, and your main goal isn't to save the world, but rather, yep, you guessed it, to find treasure. I really like how lighthearted the game's story and world are when compared to other RPGs of the time. And everything is just so charming, from the isometric perspective and character designs to the dialogue itself. Plus, it's really fun to solve puzzles, discover secrets, many of which require lateral thinking and leveling up Nigel. I will say that the European and American translations of the game are quite different, and that this even affects the ending. Personally, I like both endings, but I do prefer the European one as it's closer to the original Japanese counterpart. Still, if you're looking for some good isometric fun, this is definitely one game you shouldn't miss. Number 9. Alisia Dragoon. Alisia Dragoon is an action platformer, and its development was a joint venture between Game Arts, the same studio behind games like Lunar, Sylphid, and Gun Griffin, and Gainax? Wait, you mean this Gainax? Yeah, apparently they will occasionally dabble in game development. Huh, who knew? Anyway, in Alisia Dragoon, you control a girl with the power to shoot lightning. And what's cool here is that your attacks home in on the enemy, so you can focus on dodging while you shoot your Sith lightning. You also have several animal companions, which lend you a hand, though their usefulness is pretty debatable. Luckily, you can find items that level up Alisia, or you can level up your animal companions independently, making them more powerful and actually useful. Another cool thing is that you can change between animal companions anytime you want, so you can either stick with your favorite or switch between them depending on the situation. Oh, and the music here is awesome too. Number 8. Twinkle Tale. This is another Japan-only release, and of course, it's also freaking expensive, because of course it is. The game looks like an overhead shooter, but it actually plays more like a shmup. You play as a little witch, and everything is out to get you. But that's fine, because you're armed like freaking Sauron and can easily mow down everything in your path. You start out with 3 different weapon styles, which you can change between at any time. And these weapons can also be upgraded individually, so your firepower will only get even bigger. You also find chests which drop the aforementioned upgrades, but also some health items and powerful spells which can only be cast once. As you progress through the game, there's even a bit of story, and you'll also earn health upgrades. What I like about this game is that because it mixes run and gun with shmup, the screen doesn't scroll automatically, so you can take your time to try and clear most hazards at your own pace. Though, despite that, this game is still brutally difficult, and the action can get really intense. The graphics are a bit average, but the music is pretty good though. Number 7. Phantasy Star 4. Easily the best 16-bit entry in the series, and possibly the best Phantasy Star game of all time, with the original game being its only true competitor. Phantasy Star 4 was such a massive leap forward from 2 and 3. It has everything that was good about the previous entries, namely the mix of sci-fi with fantasy elements, but it also places a greater emphasis on the story, dialogue, and character interactions, with each character having their own distinct personality. Oh, and the anime-style cutscenes and gorgeous pixel art don't hurt either. The combat is also much faster and streamlined than the first game. And now, you can even mix abilities from different characters, creating Chrono Trigger style combos. Or, should I say, Phantasy Star 4 style combos, as technically, this game did it first. One thing I always really liked about the Phantasy Star series is how great the combat screens look when compared to other RPGs of the time. And this one has by far the best looking combat in the series. It's just a shame that Sega seems to have abandoned the classic Phantasy Star series in favor of Phantasy Star Online. Oh well. Number 6. Sonic 3 plus Knuckles. Yeah, I know this is technically 2 games, but hey, they were originally meant to be just 1 game, and you could argue that Knuckles is an expansion pack to Sonic 3. Sonic 3 on its own was a great game, but felt a bit rushed towards the end. Sonic & Knuckles was another great game, but it was missing a few features from Sonic 3, like, oh, I don't know, a freaking save menu? But put the two together, and what you get is the best 16-bit Sonic experience ever made. 3 playable characters, all with different abilities, 27 levels, some of which will play out differently depending on which character you're playing as. Multiple endings, twice the Chaos Emeralds to collect, co-op multiplayer, competitive multiplayer, and the game even has a storyline without resorting to a single line of dialogue. Now that's inspired. Seriously, the content here is huge! And it doesn't hurt that the game looks as good as it does, and that Michael Jackson even had a hand in composing the music. Yeah, I know, there's a point of contention as to whether or not MJ's work actually made it into the final game. And I'm not about to open a can of worms here, so I'll just say he had a hand in it. Sega really gave it their all with this one, and by God, they nailed it. Number 5. Thunder Force 4. If Sonic 3 plus Knuckles was a large studio with a AAA budget putting as much content as they could inside 2 different cartridges, Thunder Force 4 is the story of a small studio putting as much content as humanly possible on a single cartridge with a third of the space as Sonic 3's. This game is without a doubt the best shmup on the Mega Drive. featuring great power-ups that can be upgraded and cycled between after picking them up, some of the best backgrounds you'll ever see on a 16-bit game. Seriously, just look at the art on this background. And of course, layers upon layers of glorious parallax scrolling. Then you have the great level design, enemy placement, ship design, all complemented with a truly amazing soundtrack, which ranges from upbeat to full-on heavy metal. If you're only going to play one shmup on the console, make sure it's this one. Number 4. Streets of Rage 2. Now we go from one of the best shmups of all time to one of the best beat-em-ups of all time. Streets of Rage 2 is about as near a perfect game in this genre as can be developed for the Mega Drive. 4 playable characters with completely different playstyles, large detailed sprites, great looking and varied backgrounds, a wealth of combat moves, lots of weapons to pick up, a lot of different enemy and boss designs, all with different behaviors, and of course, how could I not mention its soundtrack, often considered one of Yuzo Koshiro's finest works. And the best part is that the difficulty is just right for both newcomers and experienced players. So if you want to introduce your friends to the beat-em-up genre, this is really the best place to start. Of course, you might just ruin beat-em-ups for them once they realize their first experience was also one of the best. Number 3. Revenge of Shinobi. This was a hard one. With 3 Shinobi games on the Mega Drive, all of them top tier, it was really hard to pick just one. Shinobi 3 is the better looking game of the group and has the most moves. But I also feel it's too short and easy. Shadow Dancer has the difficulty down, but it can get a bit samey after a while. Revenge of Shinobi, on the other hand, is just perfect. Graphically, it's the least impressive of the trio, but everything about it is just so perfect. The physics, the controls, the fact you can use shurikens or try a melee approach, your Shinobi magic, which you can select at any time for a variety of situations. The level design, the fact Sega was ballsy enough to throw in Spider-Man, Batman, Rambo, the Hulk, the Terminator, and Godzilla without paying any royalties. And of course, the music, which was once again created by none other than Yuzo Koshiro. People often have fond memories of this game, and it completely stood the test of time. Number 2. Shining Force 2. Oh man, where do I even begin with this one? The game that introduced an entire generation to strategy RPGs. In Shining Force, you control an ever-growing party of adventurers on a quest to save the world. The game is highly strategic and different characters will be better suited for different situations and enemy types, meaning it's your job to figure out how best to use them or even the best party combinations, as you can't bring every individual party member to a battle. Outside of battles, you'll wander around towns or the world map, talking to NPCs, buying equipment, and even recruiting new members, many of which are optional or missable, so you should always make sure to backtrack in case you missed anything. Yes, this is a tactical JRPG where you can walk around town, backtrack, or even grind around the world. I know we've seen other games that do this, but I can't even begin to tell you how much of an innovation this was at the time. And then you have the art style, which, just look at it! From the expressive characters to awesome looking battle scenes, this game is simply amazing and one which every Sega owner should play. And my number one Mega Drive game is... Contra Hardcore. I don't even know where to begin with this one. This is the most intense run and gun game I've ever played. The difficulty level is high and it's not easy to get into, but once you find your groove, it becomes the most addicting Mega Drive game ever made. And just to be clear, when I say Contra Hardcore, I mean the US version, as it's the best way to play this game. None of that European censorship, and the health bar was removed, making an already difficult game even more intense. You have 4 playable characters, all of which have completely different arsenals, 2-player co-op, branching paths with levels and bosses that can be entirely skipped. Hell, your choices will even change who the final boss is. And there's quite a lot of different final bosses to play against, for a total of 6, count them, 6 endings. One of which where you travel back in time and marry a monkey. And if you happen to play as Sheena, you still travel back in time and still marry a female monkey, making it the first interspecies lesbian relationship in gaming. But it doesn't stop there. The game throws everything at you, with run and gun levels, bike levels, levels where you ride a helicopter, levels where you're racing against the screen on a pseudo 3D plane, graphical effects that push the hardware, great use of color, a robotic Simon Belmont boss. This game just throws everything at you and it's so amazing. It's not one I can recommend to anyone due to its high difficulty, but it's without a doubt the best Contra game I've ever played. The level of sheer insanity here always tugs on my adrenaline levels, and it's a game I always pick up now and again, making it my all-time favorite Sega Genesis or Mega Drive game. 30 years after its launch, the Mega Drive still has a vibrant community of developers, creating new games for the console and launching them on physical cartridges to this day. I'm sure everyone has their list of favorite games for the console, which are likely different than mine. But we can all agree that the Mega Drive truly is one of the best consoles ever. And now that we're seeing a new Sega Genesis renaissance, we can only hope we'll be seeing some new best games of all time in the coming years. Happy birthday, Mega Drive! Don't you ever stop being awesome! Hey everyone, thank you for watching St1ka's Retro Corner. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. All that fun social media stuff. And if you want to support the channel, check out my Patreon, where you'll find all kinds of awesome rewards. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. Bye!